Welcome to Roofing Road Trips with Heidi. Explore the roofing industry through the eyes of a long-term professional within the trade. Listen for insights, interviews, and exciting news in the roofing industry today.
Hello, and welcome to another Roofing Road Trips from Roofers Coffee Shop. This is Heidi Ellsworth, and wow, we just returned from an amazing MetalCon 2023, and we wanted to talk to the experts in machinery and equipment and what's happening after MetalCon. So we asked Ken McLaughlan and Stephen Gosk to visit with us today, and we're going to specifically talk about leasing or buying your equipment. Gentlemen, welcome to Roofing Road Trips.
Good morning, Heidi. Good to be with you.
Morning, Heidi.
I have to tell you, MetalCon was amazing. It was so busy. The big reveal with your new equipment, it was really, really great. So congratulations to both of you and to the overall team.
Thank you very much.
So one of the things when I was at MetalCon and we were looking around at all of these beautiful machines that you had, I'd kind of like to start out with, first of all, and I almost forgot, I got so excited about the machinery, but let's start out with introductions. And then I want to talk a little bit about what you had in your booth so that everybody who wasn't there can kind of know what they missed a little bit. So Ken, why don't we start out with you? If you could introduce yourself, tell us a little bit what you do with metal forming.
Great. My name's Ken McLaughlan. I'm the Vice President of Architectural Sales. So I oversee and work with our sales team with all of our equipment in the architectural market space, directly tying into MetalCon and the sheet metal business in general for exterior work.
Excellent. And Steve?
Yes, good morning. Steve Gosk. I'm the president of Metal Forming, responsible for the complete organization here, which represents numerous high-end suppliers for the metal forming space. And our role in that includes all the sales functionality, but also all the technical service support, field technical support, inventory, and such that goes with that.
I have to tell you, Steve and Ken, I was so impressed overall with all of that. And so let's talk just real quick. Ken, we had you at the very beginning of MetalCon. We were live. Talk to us a little bit about what was in the booth at MetalCon that you all were showing.
Yep. So this year we were able to premiere the new StelarCheck must-see slitting and cut to length line, which is about 5 years in the process of development. We listened to customers, their concerns, their questions. We talked about all their needs, and we worked together with one of our suppliers and came up with a machine that we feel addressed 100% of what the customers were asking for, not only in feasibility, but also in financial space and turnaround. So we were really excited about that process. It was busy the entire time we were at the show. And it was just a great debut for us overall.
Yeah, it really was. And Steve, what did you see talking to the contractors, talking to the sheet metal shops, everybody who was coming into your booth? What was some of the feel you had for the current economic environment and what they were all talking about?
Well, first would start, Heidi, beyond the slitter we had from StelarCheck, which was our big reveal, we had about 4 or 5 other innovative products in our booth. And it was very interesting for me to see the activity level and the interest level from the contractors coming by the booth to see not only the StelarCheck slitter, but also the various other products we had from our suppliers and some of the innovation those products could offer them in what they do day in and day out. So the activity level was just fantastic. As we've talked in the past, I'm now about a year into this with metal forming. And so I'm relying on the historians like Ken who can go back and reference, the 90s and some of the past MetalCon events, which had, activity levels similar to what we saw the other week back in Vegas. So it was exciting to see, what's going on. And you kind of pair that into your question around the impact of interest rates. I guess, we're watching, the high interest rates and what they may or may not do overall to the activity level in this space. And it's something that I wish I had the perfect crystal ball. And I'd say, at this present time, I mean, there's the obvious. I mean, interest rates surely are having an impact on new housing starts, and that's a piece of the market that our contractors naturally serve. But the interesting piece of that is about 90% of what goes on residential roofing is actually refurbishment and replacement. So some of that is somewhat insulated, in my view, from the activity that might be impacted by the interest rates themselves on new home construction. The other piece of it is, how strong is the industry, and are people requiring and needing to actually go out and get financing for some of their equipment. Based on what we saw at the show, I'd say there's still a pretty robust environment that perhaps the business activity and level of activity that's out there will not require people to have to go get that financing. But those who do and need to go out and find the financing alternatives, that higher rate, I think, will have perhaps some impact in their decision making.
That's really interesting. The fact that you're such a robust market or industry right now, that some of it are not going to need financing and be looking at obviously purchasing this year, hopefully, definitely going into next year. So I'm going to kind of follow that trail right there, because I think that's really, really interesting. And Ken, you were talking just earlier about there are some tax incentives for people to purchase this year, whether that's purchasing or outright buying or financing. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So for years in our industry, certain times the government is in, they've made incentives. 179 has been one of the incentives that was around for, it seemed to be forever. Every year they talked about taking it away. And the last couple of years, it actually has become diminishing. So it's on a reduction that it's gone from 100% to 80% of the investment dollar against your taxable income. Right now, it will go drop another 20% this year. So it's a huge incentive for contractors that are having a great year, that are working with their financial professionals, their CPAs, to say, hey, we've got this opportunity to be able to invest money in our company that goes against our taxable income. So you get a lot of people taking advantage of that. That's definitely something to talk to your CPA or your CFO about, to have them get involved. And then applies with any capital purchase within the parameters of 179. So it definitely should be taking a look at that, whether you're buying a new machine, you're leasing a new machine, the incentive is there.
Yeah. I think that is one of the things that we need to, I'm so glad we're talking about this, because we need to spread the word on that. And I'm sure a lot of people and a lot of sheet metal shops, folks already know about it. But were people talking about it, Ken, at the show at MetalCon? Did you hear some people like aware of what was going on with 179?
Correct. There's always a lot of people that are under, they say they understand it. And I'll put myself in that column. I don't understand it well enough, though, to define it. But your tax professionals are key in this. Your CFO getting involved and trying to figure out, where the investment funds can go and how that works for you and your company. So everybody seems to murmur about it. And a lot of people wait until the last couple of weeks when the accountant walks in or your CFO walks in and says, hey, listen, by the way, we need to spend money, or we're going to spend more money in taxes. It's one of the two. So you're doing one or the other. What would you prefer to do? And I've yet to find a contract that rather pay additional taxes than get some new equipment for his team to make his business stronger.
Exactly. I mean, that's key. Okay, so for those contractors out there who are looking at buying the equipment outright, what are some of the pros and what are some of the cons about buying that equipment outright? Ken, let's start with you.
Yeah. So I think anytime that you're looking to buy equipment, there's three ways to do it. There's purchasing an outright cash or equity from within the business. There's lending money from your bank or lending money from an outside institution. I don't think anybody would argue that if you have the cash available, it's always nice to do it. But in these times where, everybody's a little concerned about interest rates and everything else, they're also concerned about where their market's going. So putting a bunch of capital expenditure out makes it easy for you. You don't have to sign a loan paper, but at the same time, now you're taking risk of taking that cash fluidity out of your business and moving it into a piece of equipment. So That's the good and the bad. The great is that it doesn't have an effect on your business. The negative is that it takes away some of that liquidity that you have.
Yeah. And kind of looking at the same thing when you're talking to your customers, and Steve and Ken both, like, what, as they're thinking about leasing, say they just don't have that fluidity, or maybe they just want to, they're a company that wants to start getting into sheet metal and they need to kind of make that first stop. How is that, what are some of the options for them out there around financing, and how does that compare to kind of leasing? I mean, is there, whether you're borrowing from the bank or you're leasing from someone else, kind of talk through that and what their options are.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, as a supplier, we need to be cognizant that our customers have different needs, and essentially offer up different pathways depending on what their business situation is. You touched on one that I happen to really enjoy every time that type of customer comes in the booth, and that's the contractor who's deciding to get into fabrication, and they're looking for those first machines that would allow them to manage their costs, control their own schedule and such, and then sell product to third parties. And they come in the booth and are looking for the machines, but there's also other pieces of this, because with this typically they need to build a facility to house those machines, and there's other costs and impacts in their business with added employees and things like that come into play. And so it's very difficult from a supplier side to truly 100% understand all the dynamics that our customers are faced with. So I think it's very important for us to basically provide them with various options that suit their needs, and have that flexibility here, and for us to be able to go ahead and provide contacts and information into third parties that support the business direction they want to take. I mean, actually, as a company ourselves, I mean, we're not doing that financing directly, but we're making those connections for the customers so that they can pursue what option makes the most sense.
Those kind of connections are the most important, because sometimes you just don't even know where to start. And Ken, you've been doing this for a very long time. As you're really sitting there with whether it's a sheet metal shop, a contractor who's starting a sheet metal shop, or some of your very, very large manufacturers that I know you work with too, what's some of your advice in kind of looking at this, buying this year, next year? I know the 179, but I mean, there's a lot of different options. What are some of the conversations you're having?
Yeah, I think the big thing is always looking at, what the needs of the company and where the company's going. A lot of these companies walk in and they've sat down and they've invested a bunch of time and money and knowledge from their group to say, this is where we're going, this is what we're doing, and we need to look at some different equipment to achieve that. Some of this equipment lead time is dramatically longer than others. I mean, some you can come into Peachtree City today and pick it up on your trailer and take it home, and some of it we order it today and you'll get it 14 months from now. So there's challenges with equipment too that you really have to through as a group. And I think that's really why it's important to have a partner in this that's trusted and has expertise in it that allows them to help you guide down the path. The same thing when it comes to how to spend the money or how not to spend the money. There's really just those three ways, that without breaking into the little minute pieces, but there's, spending your own equity, your cash, there's going to your bank, your lending institution, which is good because it's usually a lower rate than going to an outside one, but it ties up your line of credit, which with a lot of these contractors, their work's seasonal. And so they don't have that constant flow of cash. So they're trying to plan for things. We've had some of our partners that do the lending come up with some great incentives for our contractors to where they had deferred payments, and they were looking some different creative ways of helping them fit this into their budget when they're doing extended periods of time. So I think it's really important if the contractor's got an idea, they're thinking about a path they're trying to go, or the fabricator, and this is the next big thing for them. It's really important for them to get with somebody that understands what the role is. And then it's important for the contractor to understand it as well, that, there are those three different lines that you can go to, and your risk is kind of varied a little bit with all of them, but, based on your business structure will allow you to make the best decision for your company.
Yeah. And, I'm always intrigued. So, I mean, obviously fabricators who already have their shops and great production facilities, they kind of know where they're at, and they may be looking at that must see from MetalCon as the next big purchase. But for contractors, or even, I talk to a lot of contractors who are like, I would just want to get into sheet metal fabrication. That's where they want to go. And it either supplements their business, or I've talked to a number of them who have just totally changed their business model and gone that way and focused on training and fabrication. For someone just starting out, if you were going to prioritize, what should you buy first? Ken, what would you say?
Yeah. Anytime you're going to ask that question, I can tell you what people buy first predominantly, and I'll tell you what they should buy first. So,
okay, good.
This entire world's about job control when it comes to that, about how do you maintain the most consistent face forward to your customer is the contractor trying to control things. And that really falls into trim 90% of the time, whether or not you're a shingle roof or you're a flat roof, or you're doing tile, you're doing metal, you're doing wall applications, you're doing anything in our space. Trim is always the most difficult part because it's the first thing that has to go on, and it takes some time to lay out. So folders and shears and fabrication equipment to make that trim is always what I would consider to be the first step, because it ties into the entire business model and allows you also to be able to do work for other people from there. That would definitely be the first. And that was one of the things we did at MetalCon this year with one of our partners, Shechta. We offered what we called the Roofers Package, which was a folder, a shear, and a box and pan tooling that allowed them to do 99% of the fabrication that they'd have to do for trims in all of those workspaces. So that was a great incentive. We had great response to it. People just basically saying, you know what, and Steve makes jokes about this, but every trade show we go to, he has somebody walk up to him going, hey, I'm just getting into the business. I really don't know what I need to buy, but I know I need to buy something. That's this package and why it was put together. We could almost call it the Steve Gosk package pretty soon. He's the one that kind of drove it. Next steps after that, you see people getting into other forms of production, whether it's a roll former for making standing seam panels, a little bit more specific, or whether you see it in a little longer processing equipment. So moving away from the traditional 10 and 12 foot lengths and moving into 21 foot lengths, which ties into our Yorns partner that was with this show. Mark actually celebrated his 50-year anniversary this year too. I forgot to mention that earlier, so that was an important part.
That's right.
In that production thing just starts talking about different gauges. I mean, what we're talking about in what architectural space, we talk about lighter gauges, anywhere from 29 to 22. A lot of the industry's moving into heavier gauges or thicker, not only being steel, but being aluminum. So we start talking about processing equipment that allows you to bend the heavier gauges of material, which this year we represented with a brand new thing to MetalCon with our Schroeder machine we had, which we were hemming 14 gauge flat, which was astonishing to most people walking down the aisleway. It grabbed more people's attention when they walked by and they're like, what gauge is that? So that let them see something different that they're getting in. And then processing, this coil slit to length. And then the other one that we tie in that's kind of the misnomer in our group is software. Everybody has something, but not everybody's works good with everything. And so it's always important to do that. We had Randy and his team from Bendix in our booth. They were able to talk to contractors about that. So first one, I would say fold like fabrication equipment, that what we consider to be entry level, but really isn't entry level anymore. It's automated folders and shears. Moving into that from roll forming into production software. I mean, there's so many avenues for people to go. And that's the great way when you start a business off with that first step, it lets you grow your business into the next level of where you're going. One of the biggest things that can add on this is the success stories you hear from people when they said, I started out doing this and then I bought this first piece of equipment and I'm replacing that equipment with something else because it's been successful. It's a great place to sit there and listen to a contractor or, somebody look at you and say, the equipment that you've helped us with has allowed us to increase our business and be a better person, better company within the industry.
Yeah, that's exciting. Those are the kind we talk about it all the time. Diversification, differentiate yourself, all of that. So you've really got me curious. So Steve, as you were in the booth and this great starter package, basically, what were some of the things that you heard from contractors as they were looking at this?
Well, I think the most important is they're looking for the expertise our team offers. And we're able to talk to them about what they're doing today and what they want to do 5 years down the road, and really understand that, and then get into the equipment that we offer, the service support that we offer that best aligns with those needs. And, whether it's our machine or a competitive machine, let them go in with as much knowledge and information on the capabilities of the product offering so that they can make a well-informed, decision. So just like they're leaning on their tax accountant for decisions on lease versus buy versus what makes sense, I see them coming to the show, looking at the equipment and talking to us in that same fashion for us to guide and assist them into what product makes the most sense for them based on what they do. And I mentioned it before, I'm very proud of our team. When someone's looking at a machine that perhaps might be overkill, we say, you don't need that. You can get away with this machine over here, less of an investment, but makes more sense for what you're sharing with us in your business. And I think we go down into those details, whether it's at a show. Interesting, story. I was at the airport flying home on Friday, and I'm in my metal forming shirt, and actually had someone walk up to me right after security and indicate that they had come by our booth, but the booth was so busy, they really didn't have a chance to get and talk to anyone. But they were in the same situation, looking to buy equipment as they wanted to get into fabrication out of the Texas area. And we were able to share with them, they could come to our facility here in Peachtree City, and we have a full demo room, showroom of equipment for them to go through the same discussion, but with more than enough time and the same people to talk through the details. So it comes in a lot of different forms, but really people leaning on us for our expertise and all the different variety of products that we can offer them in one location.
Yeah, that is cool. How great. And you know what? I've had that happen before too. All of a sudden you see someone in the airport and they're like, I didn't get to talk to you. And the show just goes on. So, and you actually, Steve, took us right where I wanted to kind of go, is like how to get started. So for those contractors who weren't at MetalCon or who maybe weren't able to get time in the booth, I love what you're saying about coming to Peachtree and actually spending time with the machines, learning. To me, that makes so much sense. Talk a little bit about, and Ken, maybe, as people are talking to the sales team, how do they do that? How do they schedule that? How do they kind of start down this path of really sharing their goals and working with you to take that next step?
Yeah, I think the important part, and I kind of want to touch on one more thing too, in addition to this, I just thought about. So in addition to this financing thing, I wanted to really stress the importance of the team that's here to support it. And the team's got everything from engineering to roofers and sheet metal guys to technicians to both precision and architectural. So when you call in, we really want to understand your business. That's the biggest part. And Steve hit on this, like we don't want to oversell people on things. We're not, I hate to say this, we're not a sales organization, but we're an organization here to educate and to help the customer pick the right thing, give them the opportunity. So we'd love to reach out to us, whether it's via email, via phone, but give us a call, talk to us. If you can fly into Atlanta, we're 37 minutes away from the airport. We've got over $3 million dedicated to our demo floor in equipment that's sitting out there right now that we can bet anything from the lightest gauges we see in our industry, 018, that we've got a machine out on the floor right now that'll bend 5/8 plate. So we can find a solution anywhere within those four of them. But the biggest thing would be to reach out to us either at metalforming, .net USA, or pardon me, -USA.net, or give us a call and we can definitely get something scheduled. Our sales team's here from 8 to 5 Eastern time, but whatever works best for you on that. So,
and a silly question, but I think people may be thinking this. Okay, so they're going to do this and they get a hold of you. Who should they bring from their office, from their production? Who should they bring to see the machines and do the demo?
Yeah, I think the people, having a really good plan is in place, but where we seem to have the best results is when you have the people in the end that are going to end up using it that are somewhat involved. Depending if it's a brand new experience for you, if it's something you're manifesting on or growing from. So the shop foreman, the business owner, because he's the one making the commitment, whether it's the facility engineer, and we see a little bit different between the mix in our customers too, that we'll have facility engineers that walk in and they truly need a solution. And then we have contractors that walk in that know what they think their solution is, and we just have to find the right machinery for them. So, I mean, we would welcome all and any to show up with what the plan is, and we can walk through as a team.
I love it. And just as a last thing, ongoing. So as you know, we were talking here about leasing, buying, financing, but let's talk just a little bit. If you are making that decision to buy this year, however you're going to do it, whichever works best with you and your a tax accountant and your CFO. But there is ongoing training and service that goes on way past the purchase. So Steve, maybe just talk a little bit about that ongoing relationship, that ongoing maintenance and care for the machinery once it gets out into the shops and it's in production.
Yeah. So with that, there's a lot of options that the customer has with us as well. But most importantly, we have a full group of field techs, service techs that are available, more than, at least best I can tell, with any of our competitors in the industry, including a variety of backup technical support that resides here in the office and applications, as well as online technical support of the machines, where a lot of the issues actually in today's world get resolved by us getting online with that machine and seeing what's going on. So, we have a full gamut of support folks here within the organization that are available. And depending on the customer size and scope, that could be, servicing their need with a sense of urgency if they're down for some reason or are having issues, all the way to, folks that are a little bit bigger and have multi-facilities or locations where we could set up, service level agreements, preventive maintenance agreements, so that we regularly come out and take a look at the machines and make sure that the service that's being desired is getting completed in a timely fashion. So different options depending on the customer and the customer's needs.
That is great, because I think that's important too. Whenever you buy something, you want to know that they're going to be there to have my back, to help us, to make sure our crews are, all the folks are trained. So, Ken, last thoughts on for all those contractors or sheet metal shops or fabricators over there, timeline. Now's the time. I would think we're at November. We're right at the beginning of November, and so we got 2 months left in the year.
Correct. We've got 2 months left in the year. We've got inventory in stock that you can take possession of immediately in some of the lines. We still have the availability to order some of the custom machinery prior to the end of the year, depending on the application. Reach out to us, give us a call, let us know how we can help. Our group is in here answering the phone and following up on show leads, which I have to stress that MetalCon this year was like MetalCon from the 1990s.
Yes.
It was a great experience. It was almost overwhelming, to be very honest. And we're excited from that. And if we didn't get the opportunity to talk to somebody at the show, like the gentleman that Steven met up with, please reach out to us. Feel free to give us a call, come by and visit, whichever works best.
I love it. Well, thank you both. This has been so great. And I hope this helps all the contractors and sheet metal shops, everyone who's out there with some of their decisions, or at least a direction on what they, for next steps or starting a new division within their company. So Steve, Ken, thank you so much for being on this morning.
Thanks, Heidi.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. And it was great. Thank you all for listening. We want to keep bringing you these type of topics that will help you grow and differentiate your business. Be sure to check out all of our podcasts under Roofing Road Trips under the RLW navigation on both Metal Coffee Shop and Roofers Coffee Shop. And also on your favorite podcast channel, please subscribe and set those notifications so you don't miss a single episode. And we'll be seeing you next time on Roofing Road Trips.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel and leave a review. Thanks for listening. This has been Roofing Road Trips with Heidi from therooferscoffeeshop.com.